Hi guys, welcome back to iDrum. Here we are in southwest London today, where I'm delighted to be talking to a man who is, for one reason, the envy of countless drummers around the world, and for many other reasons, a hugely respected and talented musician, Mr. Tom Meadows. Hi Tom.
Thanks for coming down.
How you doing? Good to see you.
Yes, me too.
So, you're in the middle of rehearsals for Kylie Minogue's Kiss Me Once tour.
Yes.
How's it all going?
Good so far. It's, the start of rehearsals are always hectic.
Mm-hmm.
Slightly different this time out in the sense that when I first started working with her in 2010, it was a brand new start, brand new band, brand new album, and brand new arrangements. So we did a little bit of promo, and then 2011, early starts the rehearsals, everything brand new. This time out, we're in September, and we started promotion or rehearsal for promotion in February. So we've played some of the songs, we played some of the arrangements. So even though technically there's been less to learn, it still feels as though, as I was saying earlier, you're sort of wading through mud just to get to that point where, well, for me, on this type of gig, which I'm sure we'll get into, is the geography of it.
Mm.
It's, which sample is on which pad at which point, and, it's not quite just playing the drums.
Sure.
Even though the bottom line is that's what it is, but there's all sorts of geography. I haven't quite figured out when I tip over into subconscious. It's very weird learning songs. I don't know whether anyone sort of feels that too. You don't know a song, you know a song.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I've no idea why, but we're slowly getting to that point. We're starting to run the show now. We go into production rehearsals next week. So, yeah, we're getting there. We're getting there slowly.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the band, is it the same group that you were playing with before?
Yes, pretty much. The only element that's changed is the keyboard player, band MD keyboard player. So we have brand new guys doing a fantastic job. It's quite, intimidating. I don't think it matters what the medium is. It's intimidating coming into a space where people have been there for a long time. And frankly, myself, Deshaun, the bass player, Luke, the guitarist, we're fresh and we've been doing it for 4 years. Some people, some of the crew, some of the production, they've been with Kylie for 20 years. So you walk in and it's quite intimidating.
I can imagine.
Because as much as, I'm sure they don't even really think about it, but there's, Kylie's had some incredible bands. So there is a sort of heritage of, right, well, I have to step up to this particular plate. And her MD and arranger, Steve Anderson, has an extraordinary track record and has done some amazing things for her and many other people.
Mm-hmm.
So it is quite intimidating to come in, but he's done great, Pete, the keyboard player. But it's always nice. It's, I hear a lot of people talk about sort of family and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But this is the closest, that I've come to just not having to worry about any, relationship issues. I get on with this person, but I don't get on with this person. Everyone's fantastic, and it is a genuine joy. And that comes from the top,
Yeah.
It comes from Kylie, and it filters all the way down. The way she leads the ship is incredible.
Fantastic. So, I mean, when there's none of that politics getting in the way, you can just concentrate on the music. It becomes easy, doesn't
it? Absolutely. And your focus, of course, is the 2 hours of the show, but that's 2 hours out of 24. And I'm not the first person to have said this. It's been said many, many times. But that bit, once you get to a certain point, it kind of runs itself.
Mm.
What do you do for the other 22 hours? And so it's really lovely to think that you want to go downstairs to the lobby to see who's around. You want to go to the hotel bar to see who's around. It's not a case of all right, I'll do my job. It's fantastic, and everyone is just extraordinary at their job and just great to be around.
Great. I'm very envious for a number of reasons.
I would be too.
So, I mean, obviously, the show is a huge production.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just the music. There's a lot going on stage. You know, massive stage production. How much of that do you have to coordinate with, and at what stage do those elements come into what you need to do?
Well, you know, I to a large extent, I do what I'm told.
Okay.
But you're right. On a show like this, you know, if I think back to a couple of gigs before this one, with Duffy, it was, you know, it was songs, and I was playing the drums, acoustic drums. There was no electronics, and it was a little freer. This, everything is synced to time code. There's video. There's lights. Not only that, but you know, you guys can't see, but in that room over there, there's dancers, there's a choreographer. When they get the arrangements, they're choreographing to certain hits. So, you know, if I decide I don't like those two claps, and I take them out, well then they're sort of doing that, and nothing else is happening. And
right. Yeah.
You know, so as much as you know, it's playing the drums, it's playing songs, there is a lot to consider. It's not a sort of burden on my shoulders, but it's, you know, those arrangements and those parts, they are what they are, due to, as I say, time code, choreography, you know, and also the fact that a lot of people take literally their cue from me. You know, they're waiting for a certain drum fill, they're waiting for a certain hit or something along those lines. So, you know, it is a case of play the gig.
Sure.
You know, and don't mess around.
I was going to say, I mean, that might, well, some people might say that doesn't leave you much room for interpretation, you know, but actually I think that's wrong, because it kind of allows you more freedom in some ways, because you have certain hits that you need to stick to, and time, you know, exact tempos you're playing to a click or whatever. It allows you to be more expressive, perhaps, you know, in your performance. Would you say that's fair?
Well, yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to trust. When, as I said about walking into a zone that people have been in for 20 years, you have to earn that trust. You have to earn that right to say, well, hold on, what if I do this? So Steve Anderson now, the MD and arranger, we've been working together for a long time, since 2009, I think. And we've now gotten to a point where it's a discussion, you know. Yes, he will present me with arrangements, but it's a discussion, and he sort of will say to me sometimes, here's kind of what it is.
Okay.
Do what you do. But for me, the song, who was it? Bramford Marsalis said, the song tells you what you can and can't do.
Absolutely.
So, for me, when I was growing up, and the drummers that I was listening to in this country, and the pop music that was around, it wasn't perhaps as flamboyant as it is now. You know, Andy Gangadine, Frank Tonto, Pete Lewinson, Ian Thomas. Those were my, those were the people that I looked up to and I wanted to emulate. And each one of them sounded different. They had a voice. And that's the thing. 4 drummers can play the same groove and it will be completely different.
Yeah.
And it will be completely different even if you're playing, for example, the same samples on an electronic drum kit. Just the way that your grid, your personal grid works. So, you know, I love, right now, I genuinely love recreating what is in essence electronic dance music.
Okay, great.
You know, it may not be high art along the lines of Massive Attack or something of that ilk, but the responsibility is still on me to be faithful to it. That's where my freedom's the wrong word, but that's where my satisfaction comes from.
Sure.
That's where my joy comes out of, knowing truly that I have recreated this picture accurately and musically.
Yeah. Well, and you've obviously been chosen for the job because of those traits that you have as a musician. You know?
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I think that there was an element of being chosen because, you know, I could play, and then there was an element of learning certain skills on the job.
Mm-hmm.
I've been lucky that I've been kind of typecast a couple of times, and I don't think many people get an opportunity to be typecast more than once.
Sure.
You know, so for a long time I was, you know, maybe the sort of song Motown guy with Duffy, and that was a long time, and there was, you know, a lot of exposure with that.
Yeah.
But I guess since that finished, and I worked with an electro pop artist in France for a year, and then with Kylie, maybe people go, oh well, he's the electronics guy. He's, you know, we love a soundbite in this industry.
Mm-hmm.
He's the hybrid guy.
Right.
You know? But actually, to be perfectly honest, I'm just taking my cue from Andy Gangadine, Pete Lewinson. You know, if you see Pete Lewinson play with Sade, you know, he's got as much electronics as I have.
Mm.
I'll never forget the groundbreaking Zildjian Day in London at the Forum, and I was there with my best mate, and Andy Gangadine gave birth to the Gangascope. And that was the first time we'd seen this, you know, monstrosity, behemoth of a kit. Now, funnily enough, I'm trying to keep things tight kit-wise,
Mm-hmm.
but still be able to be expressive as Andy is, you know, with the amount of triggers, but I'm trying to keep it in a tighter space, you know.
Yeah.
The bottom line is, as you'll see, my kit really, if you take away the two sides of the rack, it's a rack tom and a floor tom and a kick drum.
Right, yeah.
It's just when you pull the other things together, you've got pads and things, you know. But yeah, I'm simply taking my cue from what's gone before, you know.
Okay.
And I think it's very easy in this day and age, in the sort of the YouTube age, the self-promotion via social media age, to sort of forget the real trailblazers who perhaps don't have or utilize that voice, you know. They let their work speak for them.
Sure,
But
yeah.
someone like Andy Gangadine, without him, you probably wouldn't see a lot of the advancements in terms of how drummers are creating this hybrid thing. You know?
Okay. How do you go about interpreting, you know, 20 years? Presumably you play hits from throughout Kylie's career.
Yeah.
So, you know, they've all of these songs and albums have been created and produced by different people.
Mm-hmm.
There's different feels throughout. Do you have to sort of switch on a different part of your musical
Definitely.
persona?
Without a shadow of a doubt. It's very interesting. It's something that we've been sort of looking at, actually, specifically on this tour. The first big tour we did was Aphrodite, and it was to support the Aphrodite album, which was produced by Stuart Price.
Mm-hmm.
And my way of playing on that particular tour was created by the fact that Stuart Price would often have a kick drum for the intro, a kick drum for the verse, a kick drum for the pre-chorus, a kick drum for the chorus, and then a kick drum for the re-intro before going back into the verse.
Wow.
So there'd be 5, sometimes 6 kick drums. So then you go over to the MD station, you look at the stems, and you go, I can play that, I can play that, I can play that, give me that, that's part of a loop, okay, I can't have that. And that's where you decide what you're going to play. And then the sounds really dictate the intent.
Okay.
If this big, you know, subby kick drum, quite aggressive, it makes you play in a certain way. But you know, if anyone were to see me play on the Aphrodite show, you know, just because I'm playing something with my hand doesn't mean it's typically a voice that would be played with the hand. It would be a kick drum. It just so happens that I've had to put that kick drum over there, over the floor tom, because I've run out of floor space.
Yeah,
you know?
sure.
I've got 2 fat cats either side of my kick drum. I've got a trigger on the kick drum. You know, everything is there. It's fair game. I'm utilizing every single channel on the DTX module. I'm MIDIing some stuff off a multi-tool. You know, it's full on. But after the Aphrodite tour, about a year or so later, we did what she called the anti-tour, which was no hits, just B-sides and album tracks, and it was purely for the real hardcore fans. So we did some great club shows. We ended up in Hammersmith Apollo, or the Eventim Apollo, whatever it's called. And that was a lot of Stock Aitken and Waterman stuff, you know, and then through her deconstruction years. And that Stock Aitken and Waterman stuff, that is really interesting, because it's sort of, it's quite primitive in a way. You know, there were very much limitations on what you could and couldn't do. Now it's very easy, but you know, these guys were really creating something. But the programming is just, you know, the sounds are so evocative. It's evocative of my, you know, being 8, 9.
Sure,
you know,
yeah.
And hearing the stuff on the radio, my sister blasting it all the time. And again, so you get that, you load it up, you start playing it, and you're in that place. And you're sort of playing in a really kind of bouncy way. It's sort of, you know, takes you back to watching Going Live or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
No one will get that reference at all. I'm sure they're way too
Sure
young,
they will.
You know, it takes you to that place. So I think, to answer your question, the sounds dictate how you play, and I think as long as your ears are open, I'm not trying to be sort of disingenuous or belittle what I do, but I think if you're open to what's going on, you will shift into that way.
Yeah.
I can't remember who said it, but it's a very salient point that sounds and your instrument become your costume, you know, and once you put that costume on, you know what you're doing. And once you trust yourself, you know, I play very differently on a 24-inch kick than I do on the little 16-inch cocktail kit.
Yeah.
You know, so those kind of things, I think, as I say, as long as you're open to listening to what's actually going on, that will help you along the way.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think, I mean, what you're saying about the way you have to adapt your coordination and your independence, you know, playing things which you would traditionally play with your feet, with your hands, you know, that's approaching the kit in a completely new way as well.
Yeah, absolutely.